Thank you. And now to the, I don't want to say acting, but the one occupying the seat that belongs to the leader of minority.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for giving me the opportunity. Madam Speaker, I just want to acknowledge that you have said the one occupying. Gen Zs have already told us to occupy. If they can occupy parliament, why can I not occupy the position of minority leader? And Madam Speaker, this is totally in order, because if you see what the men do in this house, when they have gone outside there, they have negotiated with the president, and you see the men are the ones who are taking the CS positions. And I think we can sit here and watch them, and they come here and they are talking about also taking this position. In my mother tongue, we say it loika or kumingato. Nisha chukua hii imeenda. So let them look for another one. And if they want to negotiate with me, we negotiate when I am seated. And I told you in this house, bad girls, good girls never get the corner office. I'm a bad girl, I've sat here, so I'm looking for the corner office. If one day has got that corner office, I'm taking. The very least I can do, if you agree, is to take one very close, but nothing any less than that. But having said that, Madam Speaker, I just want to say I want to thank the Gen Z for the revolution. I know many of us have diverse views about it, but I want to say that as a person who has been in this struggle for many years, there are very interesting things that happened out of it, including bringing us in a unique situation where we are actually doing a supplementary before we have actually implemented the budget. I don't think this has ever happened in the country. But I want to encourage us as members of parliament that sometimes when we have gone through the challenging parts and we feel like we're in a secure place, we forget where we have come from. Let us not forget that for the first time, Gen Zs across, there were Gen Zs who are our children, who are our grandchildren. And Madam Speaker, I raised the alarm on this floor before the 25th. And Madam Speaker, it came to pass. Because we don't listen sometimes. When we are leaders, sometimes we think we have all the answers. We don't. Because we have a generation that are experiencing life differently, and sometimes they're also experiencing the way we did, it's just that we've forgotten. We need to listen to them. Yesterday when I was meeting my cousin who was visiting me from Canada, and the daughter has whatever, she has pierced her nose. So she has a ring on her nose. And I wanted to complain and say, why do you have a ring on your nose? But before I could raise my voice, I was reminded that once upon a time I had one. I'd even forgotten that I had a ring on my nose. I was asking the person, I did? Yeah, you did. And Madam Speaker, when I saw all the scenes of the Gen Zs for the first time, I was so thrilled to just sit back and see myself from another perspective. When I was that age, I was on the street, lying on the street with a police gun hovering over me. Why? Because at that age, even though I do appreciate all the things that they are saying, but at that age you also think that you can change the world and you must change it now. And for us who are older, we must listen to the idealism of the youth because we need it as a country. And we infuse it with our realism. And that is the only way we can take the country forward. And that is why I am happy that they forced us to bring this supplementary that is speaking to some of the things that we've been saying before. And I've been listening very carefully to some of the things these Gen Zs are saying. And they say very simple things. Like even today, we had opportunity, some of us who are members of parliament, women members, and we were in a function with some of the Gen Zs. And I carried my grandchild along, and she, very young, I didn't think she even can speak before people. And she challenged us, and she was saying, you people are telling us that We have rich children with mobile phones and we don't understand, etc., etc. And she said, so you wanted the poor children to be the ones going there demonstrating about their poverty. I mean, they say in very simple terms, but very poignant. So do we want the poor children to be the one demonstrating about their poverty? If you can unpackage what that means, even if they are privileged. And it takes me back to this budget. That whenever we budget, we don't do a realistic budget. And so this budget, for the first time, is attempting to do a little bit of a realistic budget. The only challenge that I am facing with this budget is because we know that we're actually implementing austerity measures. But unfortunately, whenever we budget, we don't take certain principles into account. The principle of gender equity, the principle of equity, the principle of marginalization and inclusion, you know, the converse inclusion. But Madam Speaker, it's not just that we don't take it during budgeting. We also don't take that into account during budget cuts. So who do we look for? The same way that the men are dishing out these seats to themselves. In the same way when the budget comes, we start slashing things that have to do with women, that have to do with the children, that have to do with youth. And I've actually pointed it out to my budget committee. And I'm glad that our committee has listened and has returned some. But we want to encourage you men, please, listen to us. This country is not about you alone. There are other people in this country. There are women in this country. And so whether you are budgeting, whether you are doing cuts, can you look at how it impacts on women, on children, on the youth, on persons with disabilities? And Madam Speaker, it is even embarrassing, and I'm sure, I'm glad we shared it, Bishop who spoke before me, that I was in a moral dilemma as we were moving out of here. And I went to get my bag in the lounge. And Bishop, together with Honorable Museo, told me, Honorable Millie, you are leaving us here. And I looked around me, I'm like, I very quickly thought, because the groups were already coming. There were very many. And I looked around me, I'm like, okay, so where do I take them? Everybody was walking up the stairs. They are in wheelchairs. Where do you take them? So even in our own budgeting, when we are building this parliament, when we are looking at exits, where do the persons with disability go? And our budgeting never takes that into account. And that is why I hope we are not pushed into a corner only in 2024, and then in 2025, we go back to our bad manners. Let every budgeting we do look like it's a budget of crisis, because then we think of Kenyans. Because sometimes, I don't know what leadership does to us. I'm writing my book, which I call Privileged. And it's misleading because my privilege is because God enabled me to go through some challenges in life, so that I'm privileged that when I'm in a position like this, I understand. My father was a member of the regional assembly. And so I was actually a child of the privileged. And whenever we had events like Madaraka Day or public holidays, I used to be taken in front when my father was alive. And my father died in November. And in December, when I went in front, I was chased and told to go and stand in the sun. And I was like, hey, you guys don't understand. I'm the daughter of Odhiambo. They told kwenda kabisa, and I was beaten and taken back. And that has taught me that even when I'm a leader, I don't need to feel good and flaws and show off to people. What for? These things are flimsy and they are here for a moment. And the lessons that have just happened here are things to teach us that these things are for a moment. Chair, I know because of my time is up, I'll just say, let's deal with the issue of corruption, and let's put money for victims who have died during these demonstrations. Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Speaker.
Thank you. Member for Soy, Honorable David Kiplagat.
Okay, thank you, Madam Speaker. I rise to support, though reluctantly, the budget, the supplementary budget that has been laid, tabled